RMDs, that's our topic for today, right?
RMDs.
Every time you give me another acronym, I always think we're adults here. We don't have to spell. No, but what is RMD? What are we talking about when we talk about RMDs? Let's start with defining it.
A required minimum distribution.
Okay.
That means you are required, you have to take a withdrawal, a distribution, and there's going to be a minimum amount that you have to take out.
Okay.
So it's a required minimum distribution.
Okay. So then that immediately, as soon as you give me that explanation, immediately makes me ask myself, who determines that and how is it that they calculate it?
CD Financial, where health meets wealth.
Welcome back to the CD Financial Podcast, CD Financial, where health meets wealth. I'm Mark C., your host. That man across from me, as always, is Chuck D. Chuck, my man, how the heck are you?
I'm living it, baby. Living it. And you?
I'm doing all right, man. I feel spry today. Spry is the word. That's my word for the day. I'm spry.
Okay, we're going to go with that.
At my age, spry doesn't always happen.
You're not that old. Let's be serious.
But you got to embrace it when it does, man. When the spry comes to you, you pull it in, you give it a bear hug and roll with it.
Yeah, you do. Keep going, man.
So how do you feel? Are you feeling good? Are you spry?
Honestly, like I could get some B12 intravenous feedings. I had a friend who was quite old. She's like 78 at the time. And I used to see her inject herself with B12.
Oh, yeah. You ever done that?
I have not, but I'm assuming they do that at these hangover places or something.
Now the IVs are all the rage, right? Since some popular people have made those popular.
Yeah, like hangover stuff and such. I don't suffer from that, but even if I drink the night before, and I did have a couple belts with you yesterday evening.
There may or may not have been some whiskey consumed. We can either confirm or not.
Some Jameson involved, and so because of that. Yeah, I'm ready.
Yeah. I have tried the B12 injections for energy, right? And the weirdest thing happened to me. So I'll try to keep this, not get too far down a weird place. But I got injected with a B12, and I could taste the vitamin in my mouth. After getting injected, about 10 minutes after, I started to get that, the vitamin taste. I started to get that in my mouth.
Suppose that's not that uncommon.
Well, I asked the guy at the clinic who was doing that, and he was like, yeah, some people do that.
So how did you feel?
I didn't notice a difference.
Oh, dude, that could have been our health tip.
No, I know we could
on the back end.
We could talk about B12 later because my wife feels it. Like she feels it. I don't.
I think my wife and kids, when we were on a trip, one of our summer trips that we go on, I think they actually had one of these things set up.
Yeah.
And I think they went and did it. It might have been in the Bahamas.
Possibly.
That's where it was. It was Nassau. I can't remember the Froofy hotel we were at.
Yeah.
But I think they did it there.
Okay.
Because a lot of other folks are not terribly moderate when there's an open bar.
Yeah.
So let me not judge, but I don't go for that because I don't know how you do that. When it makes me feel bad, I'm not that crazy about it. Yesterday, I just had a couple drinks. Yeah. I'm just a little lethargic, but I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
When it comes to my topics, I'm going to be passionate.
Good. We're about to get into that passionate topic. One thing, I've never tried it with the IV. I've always just the injection of the B12. Maybe I need to do it with the IV because with the IV, they give it to you with, saline solution and other things. Maybe that makes a difference.
I don't know if they did IVs or not. Well, let's boomerang back to that.
Either way, I feel spry. B12 aside, I feel pretty good today. So
good.
I'm feeling it. So RMDs, that's our topic for today, right?
RMDs.
Every time you give me another acronym, I always think we're adults here. We don't have to spell. No, but what is RMD? What are we talking about when we talk about RMDs? Let's start with defining it.
A required minimum distribution.
Okay.
That means you are required, you have to take a withdrawal, a distribution, and there's going to be a minimum amount that you have to take out.
Okay.
So it's a required minimum distribution.
Okay. So then that immediately, as soon as you give me that explanation, immediately makes me ask myself, who determines that and how is it that they calculate it?
Okay, well, this would be the IRS's tables.
Okay.
They determine it. So the tax man, that's who determines it.
Okay.
And then, of course, if you're in a state that taxes, then they're going to follow suit as well. They're going to sweep that money and say, wait a minute, what about our money?
Yeah.
So at the end of a year, December 31st, they calculate the balances that you have in all your qualified tax accounts. So qualified accounts would be TSP, naturally, for all you federal employees and retirees listening.
Right.
401ks for your spouses or others that are tuning in. IRAs, 403Bs for, who is that now? Hospitals and school teachers. 457s for government employees, other defined benefits. Those plans that are tax qualified are going to be subject to an RMD. Okay?
Right.
So far, so good?
So far, so good. I'm following you.
Good. Yeah, so they'll be subject to it. Now, as you get older, that percentage will increase. It seems slowly, but by the time you hit age 80, it starts to seem really high and fast.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So when does it kick in? At what age?
So the Secure Act 2.0 changed everything. It used to be 70 and a half. Then for just a little while, it was 72. And now if you're born between, I want to say 51 to 59. So anytime in the 50s, after 1950, 51 to 59, you're subject to withdraw money, whether you want to or not. You have to. It'll be age 73.
Okay.
And then after 1959, is it 1960? I'm glad.
I think it's from 1964.
1960 and onward for you and me, it'll be 75.
Okay.
So it does actually give us a couple more years to start to plan for what happens if we're not using our RMDs or we're not satisfying that amount, or we want to know, hey, am I going to be subject to it?
Right. So let's get into a little bit, because I think we need to get into the whys here, why we need to pay attention to this, because to me right now, 75 seems far away, right? I'm not creeping up on 75. We joke about our age sometimes, but neither one of us is creeping up on 75. Why do I have to start thinking about this now, or why should I start thinking about it now?
Because I can look back and remember quite clearly when my boys were little.
I do too.
Yeah, you see, and that was 2 decades ago, Marcus.
Yes.
Yeah, so when they were little pips, little toddlers, right? And there's that 6-year gap with Sophia and Jude, but I mean, that went by quick.
Yeah, it does.
And now, if you're in your 50s, I don't have to tell you how fast time seems to twinkle by when you just blink in your eyes. It's like, wait, it was winter? Wait, it's winter again? Wait, summer? Oh, summer's gone? What? It's spring already? Yeah, it's just, everything's just zipping by. So if you don't start a plan, you can and if you start a plan early enough, you can work that gradually, year after year. You can use time to your advantage, or time is going to wash over you like a wave at the ocean, or a set of waves, and you got hit by the first one and you come up for air and bam, the next one's there because you're in a set of waves. Yeah. Believe me, I know, because this last weekend I was in a set of waves and they were coming and they were pretty nice. They were sweet rollers, but they were pretty big.
Yeah. The last time we hit the beach together,
5-6 footers,
getting knocked around with some big waves.
Down at, what is it called? T Street.
T Street.
Yeah, it was down at T Street, just south of St. Clemente Pier. Beautiful waves, but they were coming one after the other. So time works like that. You're either going to use it to your advantage, or it's going to get over on you. Right. Don't let it get over on you.
Yeah.
Come up with a plan now. Mark, if you don't come up with a plan for your RMDs, guess who will?
I got a dear uncle who seems to be, looking out for me all the time, that wants to get in there.
And his hand's in your pocket.
Yeah.
Uncle Sam will. The IRS has a plan in place.
Right.
Who do you think's going to plan better for your retirement? You?
Yeah.
Or your uncle?
Yeah, I think my uncle's going to plan for his benefit, not so much mine.
Yeah, the IRS is not really that terribly concerned about your plan.
Yeah.
So if you create a plan, now I'm going to point something out here. If you're trying to create a plan, it'll be very difficult on your own. I've met thousands of people, and I've met 1 or 2 folks that have actually come up with their own plan out of thousands of people.
Yeah.
It's just not realistically likely to happen. Let's just be honest, okay? But if you've got professionals behind you, they're going to leverage you into that year after year after year. Do you know how I know that?
I'm guessing you know one or two that do it.
Yeah. Let me tell you about Mr. and Mrs. Jones.
Yeah.
They never did a thing for 10 years. Okay?
Yeah.
I met them. They wanted one thing from me. They became a customer, not a client. And then 10 years later, they boomerang back and they say, hey, what do I do about this RMD thing?
Yeah.
And I said, that's why we've been calling you every year. We do once a year. We call you, we email, we text, and then we just wait for the next year.
Right.
And when Jude comes to me and says, hey, what do I do, Dad? I go, just schedule them out for the next year.
Yep.
So if you can get behind it, there's a perfect example.
Right.
10 years slipped on by, but now you can do something about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before we get into, because that's a great story. It's a great illustration how time does sneak up on you, and if you're not prepared, then you're behind the eight ball, right? If we don't take out the money, what happens to us? So we get that, or we hit that age, right? We're not taking out that money. What happens to that money?
A penalty used to be 50%. That was crazy.
Yeah.
But it's 25% now, according to the Secure Act 2.0. And then if you make amends within 2 years, quickly make amends, then the penalty's 10%.
Right.
But I mean, if your RMDs, let's say it's $20,000, who wants to disgorge $2,000 just for being lazy and not getting on your RMD?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And better yet, why don't we start to formulate a plan, and then we can start to lower or even extinguish RMDs altogether. If you get on it and you have a plan in place. Right. We've done it for folks, but it takes time, especially if you got a lot of retirement savings. It's going to take some work.
Okay.
But we don't shy away from that.
Yeah. Well,
we welcome it. And listen, I don't see these plans happening, Mark. Let me say that to be polite. Okay. Yeah. I don't see them happening out there among fiduciaries, financial advisors, individuals alone. You hear that?
Yeah.
It's the silence of it not happening. Okay? You don't get paid any better. Sometimes you get paid worse because you're going down if you're withholding taxes on the way over with the plan into Roth conversions. That's a huge part of doing a plan to address the RMDs. See, as you get older, let's say we hit 75, Mark. Yeah. As you get older, that RMD is going to get larger and larger because the percentage is going to increase as you get older. Yeah. But if we're doing Roth conversions simultaneously or even previous to this, as the RMDs increase, we're removing the amount that you have in your IRAs, your TSP, your 401k. And so as the RMD increases as you get older, we're going down. And so the RMDs increasing, but we're doing more and more Roth conversions, so the amount you have to give up is less and less and less as you go. That's pretty good.
Key, yes.
Yeah.
That's key. And really, I mean, what it comes down to, just touching in like we're doing, or just looking at it like we're doing, you're paying yourself by coming up with a plan. Essentially, you're paying yourself ahead of time, right? So it's worth it. Why wouldn't you take the time to make a plan?
There's no doubt about it. You're absolutely paying yourself. Yeah. Yeah. If you put that plan in place, then the money that starts to slowly go over to a place. See, Roth IRAs are not subject to RMDs. They're excluded. You're bulletproof.
Very nice.
From future tax law changes.
Yeah.
From the trillions and trillions of dollars in national debt. If the IRS is generating $4 trillion in revenue, but the federal government spends $5 trillion, that's a lot, right? Yeah. $1 trillion negative every year. If we're at 35, 36, 37 trillion and climbing as we record that, how are they going to pay that bill? Yeah. They're going to pay that bill by getting more money. Yep. And how are they going to get more money? Yeah, increasing taxes. That's it. At some point, it's the bill's got to be paid. Yep. Yeah, and why don't we just get off that train? Forget it, right? We don't want you to be, we've talked about creating a tax plan before, we don't want you dodging bullets. We want you bulletproof.
Right.
Right? The more money we get into Roth, the more bulletproof you are.
All right. So how do I become bulletproof? How is it that I take control of this and avoid getting overwhelmed by that wave, right? Or having to dodge bullets?
So you sit down, we come up with a plan, we look at what your retirement income is, we look at the sources of income, whether you have a pension, Social Security, right? Federal employees and retirees, you've got a federal pension, you may have a military pension, you may have Social Security. And when we look at that, then we say, okay, this is where you are in the tax bracket. Now, how much more or less income will you need from your retirement savings? And then our software calculates where you are in the tax bracket. And a lot of times I'll do it long math too. So we calculate that out too, and we see what tax bracket you're in. And then we could start to say, look, we have the means to start to create that Roth money and grow it larger and larger and larger every year. And we want to stay under the really severe or the high federal tax bracket. Mm-hmm. And by doing that, just staying underneath that, we start to get money over to tax-free savings. And then for the rest of your life, that money in Roth it grows for the rest of your life tax-free.
Okay. Any other considerations? For instance, you mentioned something earlier when we were discussing this topic before going on, another acronym you threw at me, QCD, right? That's what is the importance? Why should I know about that, and how is it important in regards to this?
Well, that's good that you brought that up. That's a qualified charitable donation.
Okay.
So let's say you are in that RMD. Mm-hmm. Let's say again you're Mr. and Mrs. Smith or Mr. and Mrs. Jones, right? And you're 73 now, and you haven't done anything. You got to take out your RMD. Mm-hmm. Or let's say you have done a plan. You came in a little bit late. You got a lot of retirement savings. Your income's pretty high. We were trying to stay underneath that tax bracket. What can you do with your RMDs? If you're already contributing to a nonprofit, mm-hmm. This case, let's say Mr. and Mrs. Jones Smith are contributing to their church every year.
As many people do, yeah.
As a lot of folks do. Or they contribute to the Nature Conservancy. I've seen that a lot. Or how about Canine Companions?
That's a good one.
Canine.org, folks. I love that. Near and dear to me.
Yeah.
Canine Companions, right? It's nonprofit. So let's say they're already in the habit of contributing to these organizations. Mm-hmm. Let's say your RMD is $20,000 this year. And that's not unusual, okay? Let's say your required minimum distribution is $20,000. And you're already giving to your church $20,000 a year, but you're doing it monthly. Okay?
Right.
Let's say you're giving about $1,700 a month to you got 2 different churches maybe you give to, okay? You're giving that, and it's about $20,000 a year. You see it on your tax return. Say, hey, I'm doing $20,000 a year to my church. Well, guess what? You can take that RMD that you're required. Remember, you have to take it out.
Pull it out.
Right? That $20,000, you can give it to your church instead of monthly, all at once, and you satisfy your RMD. So the IRS says,
we're good.
Okay, we're good. We've washed our hands of this. You've done it. State government says, okay, we're good. But neither one of them gets any of the money. It's really cool.
Interesting.
It's called a QCD. Yeah. So instead of being reduced, let's say you're at 25% total taxes, right?
Right.
For that $20,000. Well, you'd only end up with $15,000.
Right.
And then you're going to end up giving it to the church anyway. But you gave them the $15,000. Let's say you only give $15,000 to your church every year. And that's your max to your nonprofits that year. Well, in this case, you can increase it by $5,000. Because you got to satisfy the $20,000 and you're going to have to pay the taxes. Why not just give it to your favorite charitable organization, your 501c, and boom, you satisfied it. And no tax money gets reduced on that. It doesn't add to your tax bracket. And in that case, it could even push you into a higher tax bracket, taking your RMD. Yeah, but instead you might stay down in the lower tax bracket anyway.
So yeah, you avoid the extra taxes. Interesting. Yeah, I don't think most people think about that because we all do. I mean, I think for the most part, all of us are charitable, right? We have organizations that we give to, and
you and I both.
But you don't think about that long-term helping you with taxes necessarily. Sometimes you do. Sometimes it's just, this is out of the goodness of my heart, I want to do this.
Right.
But if it's out of the goodness of your heart and you can benefit financially, why not? Plus, they benefit financially because now they're getting more money because you've just given that straight to them.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Okay.
It really works.
Is there anything else that you want to include as far as like how we take control of this, or you feel that's a pretty good?
I think we got it, Marcus.
I think that's a pretty good
put it down.
point. All right.
Yeah, I'm scanning. I think we got it.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love
Just remember, if you don't plan, somebody else will.
Yep.
And a lot of you listening right now or viewing, you may be taking out an amount that's satisfying your RMDs already. But keep in mind something. Right now, it could be satisfying that in your 70s, but when you get to your 80s, it might not be enough. Yeah. So if they're gonna take control of it still, right? Some of our folks, they're withdrawing a decent amount from their tax qualified money, and they have other money that's just in savings or maybe in other instruments, and they don't have to worry about it. But the money that was in IRA, TSP, 401k, 403b, 457, what have you, that money is subject to this. And you want to get control of it.
Right. Better you than your dear uncle who.
Better you than the government. That's right. Yeah. Look, if you sit on your hands, right, well then, boom, it's gonna wave over you. So don't let that happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get proactive.
Time keeps moving, so you might as well start making plans for it.
Like I'm saying, there's so many unseen dangers along the way that you really want. You really behooves you to examine working with a professional firm that does this. Because as I said before, there's a big silence there.
Yeah.
Because I don't see a whole lot of this going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is why it's very important. We emphasize this all the time. Get someone on your side. Get someone on your side who can guide you through this, because
they don't bring up a tax plan. Just this morning, I asked somebody, I said, what is, and they told me, oh, we've got 1.1 million in the IRA. They're still relatively young, 50-ish.
Yeah.
Right? And I said, what's your tax plan? You did tell me you have somebody managing the account. What is your tax plan? Silence.
Nothing.
I hear this over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just to be clear, I do. Yeah.
Right. And it's, I mean, listen, government's going to take their part, that we understand taxes are real, but we want to make sure
that on this, man. Let's get down. Let's get busy. Even little incremental stuff can really help you out.
But we want to work things to our advantage too.
Yeah, make the RMD, even if you don't get rid of it completely, if you make it minuscule, it's so manageable, right? At that point, you might be satisfying it just with your monthly needs in retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you don't have to really worry about it. It's like, it's already been satisfied. Done. Yeah, we're already withdrawing money from our IRA, TSP, what have you, 401k.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Well, I love the topic, and I love the importance of planning ahead. I mean, it's the bulk of what we talk about all the time. Have someone on your side, plan ahead. We don't like surprises in the sense of surprise. I just took all your money because you didn't know what to do with it.
Nobody likes that.
Those are bad surprises. Yeah.
All right. So you got a health tip for us?
I got a great health tip for you. Are you familiar with Newton's first law?
An object in motion?
Yes.
Tends to stay in motion?
Objects in motion.
That's his first law. How about that?
Yes. So objects in motion tend to stay in motion. I think about this. We joke sometimes about being old. I don't think you're old. We're not old. And a lot of our viewers, I think, are still fairly young, right? We're thinking about moving ahead financially and planning. But physically, we also want to keep our health. And one of the best things we can do is to move. Movement is very important now. Walking, exercising, even if it's getting out playing with the kids. How many people want to retire and be able to play with their grandkids, right? That's huge. You want to be able to go out there and play some ball or skip rope or whatever it is that the kids are doing. You got to stay in motion, though. The problem is, as we age, it gets easier and easier to sit on that couch. And
sometimes you pull a muscle or your knee gets sore or your hip, and you don't want to. Sometimes I feel my knees, not too often, but once in a while, and I'm like, maybe I'm not going to run this morning when I'm walking Barris, and maybe Isaac's with me. Isaac's been game for running lately a lot.
That's good.
So I want to keep running. It's not a lot, but just uphill with little impact. Sometimes in the flats, if it's a couple hundred yards, it's a couple hundred yards that
It helps.
That's really good to stay in motion.
Keeping your body moving. And interestingly enough, when people get injured, when they're recovering from injury, yes, initially you have that moment where you kind of have to sit down and let your body take a second. But the way you heal your body is you move it.
That's funny because my brother-in-law just had his knee replaced.
Yeah.
And they had him moving.
Same day.
Post-surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same day.
So it's immediate. It's pretty amazing what they can do now, but it's like, get going. Folks, stay. Yeah. You listeners out there, stay in motion.
Stay in motion.
Body in motion tends to stay in motion.
Just like Newton said, if you keep going forward, it's going to be easier to keep going forward.
Thank you, Sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So keep moving no matter your age. Keep moving. Maybe we don't move as much, but we got to keep moving.
I like to move it.
Dance. Dancing is motion.
Dancing's great for you.
Good for you. So good. Well, listen, I think great conversation today. I love it. We got to stay in motion, but also that applies to your financial status. Stay in motion, plan ahead, look ahead, and be ready. The time is coming, right? We want to be alive and see it, but we just want to be prepared for it. So thank you as always for joining us. We encourage you, like and subscribe these videos. We want to make sure that you get them as soon as they come out. That way the information comes right to you. Also, you have the link in the description. You want to contact CD Financial, you want to get someone on your side, hit that link as well. So for Chuck D, I'm Marcus E. Chuck, thanks for the time today, brothers. We'll see you all next time.
All right, we'll see you soon, folks.
All right,
thanks,
take
Mark.
care. Until then, CD Financial, where health meets wealth. Be well.
CD Financial, where health meets wealth.